I'm tying up two of my favorite flies. One is called the Clouser Minnow and the other one's a Lefty Deceiver. And I'm like, let's combine them. And then we call it the half and half. It's a great fly by two of my favorite tires. It just works incredibly well in the spring. I've done very well. It's one of my favorite flies. So let's get to the vise and tie one. So here we go to start tying the half and half. It's a combination between a deceiver and a clouser. So what we're going to do is start at about 1/3 down from the hook eye and build two lumps. There's a lump there and one right in front of it, another lump. And this is going to be the cradle for our lead eyes. And do a figure eights, right? Wrap around right under the base. So what I'm doing is going right around the base, pulling it tight. And I'm going to put a little super glue on it just to really lock these eyes really in there. Pretty good. Just don't glue your fingers. And then wrap it up. And that really will lock it in there. Really tight. And now bring our thread back just to about the point. We're going to put our saddle hackle in. What I'm doing is, now Lefty he didn't like line them up or anything like that. This is saddle hackle. I'm gonna take him, kind of line them up a little bit like this. They don't have to be perfect. You want a little bit. And then what I do is I will actually wet these. And that makes it a lot easier to work with. See how I wetted them? But they'll dry right away and they'll flare out and take on a more natural look. And tie it down like that. A couple of loose wraps, make sure they land on the top right. Reach in there, trim the butts off. And wrap all the way down. And try, and if some get out of the way, just clip them off. Now, I really like this material right here. This is called Bill's Body Braid. Bill's a great guy and makes a terrific product. And geez, I use it for fresh salt. It just is a terrific fly material. Wrap it in. Instead of using flat tinsel, I use this because it's so much easier to lay down. And tie it in just like that. Now, I'm going to use white bucktail for this area, but that's not the top of the fly. This is actually the bottom of the fly. When we tie it off, it's actually going to turn over. It's actually going to turn over, and this will become the bottom of the fly. Just give you a little more space. All right, so I'm going to take some white bucktail. I don't stack my bucktail. for this type of flies. I like the natural tapers that you get. If any are too, they're too wild, you can always take them out. But I do want to hold them and clean up all these really tiny pieces. Bring my thread to the front. Measure it. I want it to go back halfway down the tail. All right, and I'm going to trim them. And I'm going to give my bobbin a counterclockwise spin. And the reason is, see how it jumps back, the thread, so I could grab it. Pull it up. Go across the eyes like once. And then, perfect. Now I go underneath and come over here. Now I turn my fly upside down. This is how it's going to be in the water with the with these weighted eyes that flips them over. Now I'm going to take a nice, this is kind of like a pale yellow green type of bucktail. I like the colors of it. It really looks good. I'm going to measure it out again, pull out all the short stubby little bucktails, weigh it, measure it out. I want it roughly the same. So trim it. Give my bobbin another counterclockwise spin to grab the bucktail and tie it off. And whatever reason, I always do well with a yellow half and half in the winter, in the springtime. It's one of my early spring flies. I don't know why. Years ago, I used to use Mr. Twister tails, and I did very well early in the spring. And cut it off. As you can see, this is really just an easy fly to tie. And what I love about it is the best of both worlds.